Hi everyone, it's Umpo from Peaceful Thoughts with Umpo, where I help women with absent fathers overcome self-doubt, build confidence, and open their hearts to loving relationships. So this episode, I am going to tell you my story because you're probably wondering, how is she an expert on abandonment, absent fathers, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-doubt? Well, yeah, that's my story. That's why I decided, hey, these are the women that I want to help. All right, so here we go. I might look down at my notes, not that I don't know my story, but I just want to make sure I tell you everything about it. Okay, so I was born to a Black American mother and a South African father. Things were okay growing up. I don't remember much. I had a younger brother. I thought things were okay. Ended up moving when I was in, I think, fourth grade. And once we moved, I was excited about it. I'm like, okay, it's going to be something new. At my old school, I was getting a little bullied about my name and my height and how I was too smart and blah, blah, blah. So that wasn't fun, but at least I knew that going home, it was safe. My parents were there. I felt loved. So we ended up moving, which was great. I was like, oh my goodness, different school, different people. I'm excited. So I don't know. I think maybe that first Thanksgiving, that's kind of hard to tell. That first Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving, my mom told us that my dad was leaving. And I was like, wait, what? Excuse me? What is this about? So yeah, so my dad left. He did come back for I think part of Thanksgiving. So yeah, that kind of rocked my world. But I was like, okay, I wasn't the only one in class that had divorced parents. I'm like, well, this is cool. I get two households. Not a big deal. I was just having fun at school in fourth grade. So again, I think like everybody's story, a lot of women that I've spoken with, it's like dad would come. It was great. We'd go to McDonald's, we'd have fun, and then he'd leave. And then we'd have the thing where we'd sit on the stoop and he wouldn't come. It got more sporadic and sporadic. So it was like, okay. So after a while, we started seeing him. It was once a month, and then once every few months, and then every 6 months, and then once a year. And then he moved back east. So it was like, oh, okay, this is not going to be a regular thing. At that point, I was like, all right, I got my mom. We're doing okay. She ended up going back to school and getting a higher paying job because at the same time, my dad wasn't paying any child support. So I remember shopping at Goodwill a few times, getting lunch tickets for a low income lunch, and then my mom having to go to school and do some and work. So I had to grow up pretty fast. And as if you're a child whose dad left, a lot of times you know that you do have to step up, especially if you're the oldest. So I did that, helped out with my brother, cooked meals, all the thing. Again, it was just something I just started to do, not thinking it was a big deal. Because all I know is I felt safe at school. It was great. I had friends. This was okay. So I got good grades. Again, as the oldest, as a kid, his mom was, busy working and trying to handle business. I learned, hey, don't rock the boat. Get your good grades so mom doesn't have to worry about anything else. If you know that story, put it in the comments because that is a thing. It's almost like this perfectionism. Like, please, yeah, I can't get in trouble. I don't want my mom to worry about anything else. So graduated from high school, went to college, and let me back up. High school was fine. I had, here and there relationships with friends. Um, One thing that I do remember though is that I really held on to friendships, even if I wasn't being treated well. And that was probably the beginning of the abandonment that I'm talking about. It's almost like, don't leave me, don't leave me. Wait, I'll do whatever you want, even though you're mistreating me. So it actually started with, I can remember one friendship. So again, kept going with the friendship. Went to college, and I think the first day I was there, I met somebody, football player. I didn't date much in high school. I wasn't allowed to. So met my football player in college, and it was like, oh my goodness, someone's paying attention to me. A man's paying attention to me. By this time, by the time I was 18, I talked to him that when I was 18, and then he moved on, and I never spoke to him. So had no dad around, but I had this other man paying attention to me. I was like, oh my gosh, he loves me. Oh, wow, wow. So, but he wasn't treating me well. I went to school, college, I worked, but this relationship was not healthy for me. There was some emotional abuse, verbal abuse, but I stuck with it. I said, you know what though? He loves me. Maybe something's just wrong with me. Maybe I'm just, not behaving myself. Kind of the same thoughts that I had with my dad. Maybe I need to do something different so he will, stay with me. So then we break up. We break up. Then we get back together. Break up because I'm like, no, I don't deserve this. Oh, but he's the only one around. No, I don't deserve this. Only one around. So broke up a couple of times, and finally I said, nah, I'm not going to do this anymore. Then came the nice guy. I was like, oh, okay, I got a nice guy. Wow, this is good. Yes, so I started dating him. Things were so much better. And then graduated from college, and the relationship began to change. It was like, wait a minute. Didn't realize it. I said, okay, but pick me. I'll whatever happens. Oh, we're gonna break up. Oh, I know you're probably not the best for me because we're not communicating anymore, but I'll just stay in the relationship anyway. Again, off and on, off and on. Then he met somebody else. I was in a love triangle for a while. I was like, what the heck am I doing here? And so finally I was like, I can't do this anymore either. It's like he is not totally into me, so I'm gonna walk out the door. So I did that. And then it was about 7 years of dating. So when women come to me about dating and how frustrated they are, I get it. 7 years. I was first date. I was oh my goodness. I did everything. I did online. I did speed dating. I did singles events. I did it all, right? Trying to find that someone. Be like, oh my goodness. And I was dating to get married. I wanted someone to love me, wanted someone to pick me, to recognize I was good enough and I was smart enough and I was pretty enough. And to back up a little bit, these are some of the thoughts that little girls have growing up when dad leaves. Oh my goodness, I should have been good enough. Oh, I not smart enough? Did I misbehave? And you grow up to have these same thoughts. The little girl thoughts are just now big girl thoughts. So all those thoughts were still there. I wasn't feeling good about myself. Okay. So yes, continued to date. The guys were okay. I mean, nothing like I had before, especially the football players. So they were okay, but they just weren't into me. But again, my self-esteem, I was just like, oh my goodness, I was anxious, I was depressed, I thought something was wrong with me, like I said before. No one's ever gonna love me. And I hear this all the time with my clients. No one's ever gonna love me. I'm not lovable. That was my biggest thing. I'm not lovable. Yeah, I had friends and I had, family members, but I was not lovable. I was not lovable. That's what and I was like, well, if my dad can't love me, why would someone else love me? Right? So I remember sitting with my friend Loretta, rest in peace. She was like a second mom to me. And I was 34 years old. I forgot what year it was. And I was hanging out with her and her husband for New Year's. And I was just crying like, oh my God, I'm never going to find love. I'm just not good enough. Oh my goodness. Wow. And she's like, girl, stop. She actually told me to shut the F up. I loved her. Shut the fuck up, she said. Oh my God. I was like, ah. She's like, I'm tired of hearing about this. Get over it. You're beautiful. You're smart. Those men don't know what they're talking about. Keep it moving. Just go out there and have a good time. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I am having a good time. No, you're not having a good time because you keep talking about this. Like something's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. I was like, oh, okay. So I said, let me try this dating thing differently. Let me date to have fun, realizing let me date so I date like nothing's wrong with me. And that was a big thing. I'm like, okay, I was like, okay, there is something wrong with me. And I was dating like that unconsciously, but now I'm like, date like nothing's wrong with you. Because there was nothing wrong with me, right? The guys weren't a good fit. So I said, okay. So it was different. I was smiling. I was having a good time on dating. I met guys at Starbucks. I even called up a couple of guys that I had dated before that I said, oh, they're too nice. Not the XX, but like random guys. So I said, okay, so I was roller skating and doing all these fun things. I was like, okay. Another thing that actually changed my mind too and was really helpful was coming to terms with, what if I wasn't meant to get married? What if, what would I do with my life if I wasn't gonna get married? I was like, okay, let me live my life like nothing's wrong with me, and that I'm not gonna get married, even though I wanted to. But I was just like, hey, if I didn't, what would I do with my life? So I was having fun. I was traveling. I was doing all the things. Finally, I'm at work, and I'd been at the same job forever. And I remember talking to a guy about his dating experience, and we'd share, different scenarios. And how was your dating? Oh, mine was fine. How was your dating? Oh, this girl did this. So it was kind of fun. I was like, this guy, I knew him forever, right? A coworker. So finally, we were both off. I think we were on the same platform too, eHarmony, right? I don't even know if I think they might still be around. So we were both on eHarmony, and one day we were both off, and we started going to happy hours together. And one day we're just sitting there talking, and we're like, wait a minute, what? How come we're not dating? So lo and behold, that's my husband. So all these years, I was looking everywhere else but right in front of me. So you never know. So that is my story. And don't get me wrong, abandonment issues didn't just disappear once I got married, right? Because I still had some stuff to work on about how I loved myself, how I loved others, how I doubted myself and had some trust issues. So, yeah, I had to work on that too. And that's all the stuff that I definitely want to talk to all of you about. So that is my story. And, I've had a journey of healing. I've read all the books. I've been to therapy. I've therapized myself and realizing I'm like, let me save some of these ladies the heartache and pain that I went through. All right. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to be 50 next year. So I've lived a life. I've lived a life. And I hope to share all of this with you. So thank you so much. And again, I'll continue to share bits and pieces of what I know and how to help you again with overcoming the self-doubt, trusting yourself and others, looking at your thoughts and the way you think about yourself, the way you feel about yourself, the way you interact with people, the way you show up at work, right? We'll also talk about dad. Hey, dad. I guess that's the second part, is I did reunite with my dad. And I got to tell him about himself. So that that was very powerful and healing. It was it sunshine and rainbows now and everything's back to, how it should be? No, no. But I love him to death. And he loves me, and that's what I, got from our conversation. So that was beautiful. But yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about your relationship with your father and where it is, anger, forgiveness. We'll talk about your dad leaving and maybe your dad is no longer alive, right? What does that bring up, right? Is it double grief? The grief maybe around not him not being in your life, and the grief around him being dying. Okay. So, all right. So subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more. Also have a freebie around self-affirmations for 7 days of self-affirmation for resilient women, daughters, and just how you can start to affirm yourself and get the love that you never received, right? Knowing and learning that you're good enough, you're smart enough, you're beautiful enough, and you're lovable. All right. Take care. Bye.